Captain Vextar looked at the massive ship floating in the darkness. His forearms moved over the control panel as he studied the readings. The ship was old. Very old. The metal was strange, and the design was unlike anything he had seen in his 40 years of salvage work. "What do you think it is, Captain?" asked Zix, his second officer. The small blue alien's eyes were wide with curiosity. "I'm not sure," Vextar replied. He ran a scanner over the ship again. "The computer says it's 3,000 years old. Maybe older." The salvage crew had been mining asteroids in the outer veil when they found it. The ship just sat there in space, perfectly preserved. No power, no life signs, but somehow not destroyed by time. "Should we board it?" Zix asked. Vextar thought for a moment. Salvage law was clear. Any ship found in empty space belonged to whoever found it. But something felt strange about this one. The design reminded him of something he had read about in old-school books. "Yes, but carefully," he said. "Bring the scanner teams." 2 hours later, they were inside the strange ship. The corridors were too tall and too narrow. Everything was built for creatures that were taller than most aliens, but not as wide as his people. The walls had writing on them in a language the computer couldn't read. "Captain, you need to see this," called Mora, his best scanner operator. She was standing by a large door marked with symbols. Vextar walked over. "What is it?" "There's a room behind this door. Big room, and Captain, there are life signs." Vextar's blood went cold. "Life signs? After 3,000 years? Very weak, but yes. Lots of them." They opened the door carefully. Inside was a huge room filled with tall white tubes. Each tube was covered in frost, and strange lights blinked on panels beside them. Most of the lights were red or dark, but a few still blinked green. "Sleep chambers," whispered Zix. "Someone's been sleeping in here for 3,000 years." Vextar walked to the nearest green light. Inside the tube was a creature unlike any he had ever seen. It was tall and thin, with pale skin and dark hair. 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face that looked almost familiar. "Computer, scan this creature," he ordered. The scanner hummed for several minutes. When it finished, the result made no sense. "Species unknown," the computer said. "But genetic markers suggest this is human." The word hit Vextar like a shock. Human. He remembered that word from history class. An old species that had disappeared long ago. Most people thought they were just stories. "That's impossible," Zix said. "Humans are myths. They never existed." But Vextar wasn't so sure. He had read the old files. The Galactic Council still kept records about humans, even though most people thought they were fake. The file said humans were dangerous. Very dangerous. "How many are still alive?" he asked the computer. Scanning. 7 life signs detected. All in deep hibernation. Vextar looked at his crew. They were excited about finding something so rare. They didn't understand what they had found. In the old stories, humans were called the shepherd species. They had been both protectors and terrors. Some said they had saved the galaxy. Others said they had nearly destroyed it. "Captain, we should wake one up," Mora said. "Think of the money. A living human would be worth millions to collectors. Or to scientists," added Zix. "The universities would pay anything to study one." Vextar stared at the sleeping human. The creature looked peaceful, but something about it made him nervous. Even sleeping, it seemed powerful. "Sir, look at this," Mora called from another tube. This one was different from the others. Bigger, with more machines attached. The creature inside was clearly a human, but larger and more muscular. Strange marks covered its skin, like old scars. "Computer, scan this one too." This time, the scanner took much longer. When it finished, The readings were even stranger. Genetic modifications detected, the computer announced. Bone density 4 times normal. Muscle fiber enhancement. Neural pathway acceleration. This creature has been changed far beyond natural limits. Changed how? Vexstar asked. Unknown. Technology level required for these modifications exceeds current galactic standards. Vexstar felt a chill. Technology that exceeded current standards? But these humans were supposed to be primitive. The history book said they had barely learned space travel before disappearing. Wake this one up, he decided. Captain, are you sure? Zix asked. If the old stories are true, the old stories are just myths, Vexstar said, but he wasn't sure he believed it. Besides, what harm could one sleeping creature do? It took 3 hours to safely wake the human. The process was slow and careful. The creature's body temperature had to be raised gradually. Strange chemicals had to be flushed from its system. Finally, the tube opened with a soft hiss. The human's eyes opened. They were brown, like deep space, and they looked around with confusion. Then the creature sat up slowly and spoke. Status report, it said in a clear, strong voice. The computer translated automatically. Vexstar stepped forward. You are on my salvage ship. We found your vessel drifting in space. You've been sleeping for a very long time. The human looked at him for a long moment. How long? According to our scans, about 3,000 years. The human's face went pale. It tried to stand and almost fell. Vexstar caught its arm. The human was heavier than it looked, and its skin was warm. 3,000 years, the human repeated. The war. Did we win? What war? Vexstar asked. The human stared at him. You don't know about the war? The void hunger? The quarantine zones? I don't know what you're talking about, Vexstar said. What is your name? Commander Elena Vasquez, Terran Defense Force, Apex Guard. The human stood straighter. And if you don't know about the war, then something has gone very wrong. Vexstar felt that chill again. The way the human spoke, the way it held itself, made him think of predators. Dangerous predators. Commander Vasquez, I think we need to talk. Elena sat in the small medical room and tried to understand what Captain Vexstar was telling her. 3,000 years. The number didn't feel real. So humans are considered extinct? She asked. Not extinct, Vexstar said carefully. Most people think humans never existed at all. They think you were just stories. Elena touched her face. Everything felt wrong. Her body was stiff from the long sleep, but underneath that, she felt different, stronger. The modifications the doctors had given her before the mission were still working. Tell me about the galaxy now, she said. Zix. The small blue alien pulled up a star map. There are 47 major species in the Galactic Council. The hegemony controls most trade routes. The Kethmori keep to themselves in the deep systems. Everyone gets along mostly. The Kethmori are still alive? Elena's voice was sharp. Yes, why wouldn't they be? Elena closed her eyes. In her time, the Kethmori had been allies in the war against the void hunger. They had lost billions fighting alongside humanity. How many of them are left? Maybe 1 million across 12 worlds, Vexstar said. They don't like visitors. Elena felt sick. 1 million. In her time, there had been hundreds of billions of Kethmori. What had happened to them? What about the quarantine zones? She asked. Vexstar and Zix looked at each other. What quarantine zones? Zix asked. The restricted areas around the dimensional rifts. The warning beacons. The patrol fleets. I don't know what you're talking about, Vexstar said. There are some old beacon systems that don't work anymore, but no quarantine zones. Elena stood up too quickly. The room spun, and she had to grab the wall. but instead of just touching it, her fingers dug into the metal. She pulled her hand back and saw finger-shaped dents. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm still getting used to being awake." Vexstar stared at the dents. "How did you do that?" Elena looked at her hands. The modifications had made her strong, but not this strong. Something had changed during the long sleep. "I need to contact my people," she said. "Your people?" Zix asked. "The human fleets. They'll be waiting for my signal." "There are no human fleets," Vexstar said gently. "You might be the last one." Elena felt something crack inside her chest. The last one? After everything they had sacrificed, after everything they had given up to protect the galaxy, she might be alone. "I need to see the ship's logs," she said. "My ship. There should be records." They took her back to her vessel. Walking through the corridors brought back memories. She remembered her crew. Jackson, who told terrible jokes. Chun, who could fix anything. Maria, who sang while she worked. All sleeping in the other tubes, all dead now. In the command center, she found what she was looking for. The main computer was still working, powered by the ship's quantum core. She placed her hand on the scanner. "Commander Vasquez, identity confirmed," the computer said in perfect English. "Mission status?" "Report Aida," Elena said. "Mission parameters. Deep patrol of Sector 77 Alpha. Monitor for void hunger activity. Duration, 100 standard years. Elapsed time, 3,047 years, 6 months, 12 days. Elena felt her knees go weak. 100 years. They had been supposed to sleep for 100 years, then return to Earth. Instead, they had been lost for over 3,000 years. Status of Earth Command? No contact for 3,000 years. Last received transmission classified level Omega. Play last transmission. The message was from Admiral Chun, her old commander. His face appeared on the screen, looking tired and worried. "All deep patrol units, this is Admiral Chun. Earth Command is going dark. The Council has voted. Humanity is entering voluntary exile. The galaxy needs to forget we exist. Your missions are now indefinite. Wake-up cycles have been extended. If you're getting this message, something has gone wrong." The void hunger was stopped, but the cost was too high. The galaxy fears us now more than they feared our enemy. We're going home to the deep black. If you find us, look for the silent stars. Chun out. Elena played the message 3 times before she could speak. Aida, run full diagnostics on all systems. Diagnostics complete. Cryo systems suffered cascade failure approximately 2,000 years ago. Life support has been maintained on minimum power. 6 crew members are confirmed deceased. You survived due to enhanced physiology. Elena walked to the nearest wall and punched it. Her fist went through the metal like it was paper. She pulled her hand back and saw that she wasn't even hurt. "Commander, are you well?" Aida asked. "Define my current physical capabilities." Scanning. Warning. Readings exceed normal human parameters. Bone density has increased by 700%. Muscle fiber efficiency has improved by 1,200%. Neural processing speed has increased by 900%. "'Cause unknown." Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm becoming something else." Vexstar had been watching from the doorway. "Commander, we should go back to my ship. My crew is getting nervous." Elena looked at him. With her enhanced senses, she could see his fear. His heart was beating fast, and his skin was warm with stress. She could smell the fear chemicals his species produced. "You're scared of me," she said. "A little," Vexstar admitted. "You're very strong." "I'm not even trying to be strong," Elena said. "This is what the modifications did to me. This is what we became to fight our war." They walked back to Vexstar's ship in silence. Elena could feel the crew watching her. Their fear was like a taste in the air. She remembered this feeling from the war. Even their allies had been afraid of human soldiers dotting her quarters. Elena sat on the small bed and thought about what she had learned. Humanity was gone. The galaxy had forgotten the war. The quarantine zones were abandoned. And she was changing into something even more than human. Aida? She called to her wrist communicator. Yes, Commander? Are there any other human ships in this sector? Scanning long-range frequencies. Negative. No human signals detected. What about the silent stars? Can you calculate their location? Insufficient data. Admiral Chun's last message contained no navigation references. Elena lay down and stared at the ceiling. She was alone in a galaxy that had forgotten her people. But worse than that, she was changing. The modifications that had made her a super soldier were still working, still improving her. Soon she might not be human at all. Outside her door, she could hear the crew talking in worried voices. They were right to be afraid. She was becoming something that could tear their ship apart with her bare hands. And somewhere in the dark between the stars, the void hunger might still be waiting. The news spread through the underground channels like fire through dry space. An awakened human, alive, real, on the deep space station Dark Harbor. Crime boss Krelthox read the message with growing excitement. A living human would be worth more than his entire operation. Museums would pay billions. Private collectors would pay even more. Send the hunters, he ordered his lieutenant. I want that human alive. In the distant Kethmori systems, Elder Vashtar received the same news with very different feelings. She was old enough to remember the truth about humans. She remembered the war. She remembered what humans could do. Alert the council, she told her aide. The shepherds have returned. This changes everything. On Captain Vextar's salvage ship, Elena felt the change in atmosphere. The crew was more nervous now. They whispered when they thought she couldn't hear them. But her enhanced hearing caught every word. She dented the wall just by touching it. Did you see her eat? She consumed 3 days' worth of rations. The scanner says her bones are like metal. Elena tried to ignore them. She spent her time studying the current star charts and trying to understand what had happened to the galaxy. The more she learned, the more worried she became. The void between was still there. The dimensional rifts that the void hunger had used to enter their reality. But according to the current maps, they were marked as unstable space phenomena and nothing more. No warnings. No guards. No protection. Captain Vextar, she said during their daily meeting. I need to ask you about something. Of course, he replied, but she could see the tension in his forearms. Have there been any reports of ships disappearing near dimensional anomalies? Strange energy readings? Reality distortions? Vextar thought for a moment. There have been some odd reports from the outer dark, ships going missing. But that's normal in deep space. Elena felt her blood go cold. How many ships? Maybe a dozen in the last few years. Why? Before Elena could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Vextar rushed to the bridge with Elena close behind. Report. Vextar shouted. 3 ships approaching fast, Zix called from the sensor station. Configuration unknown. They're not answering hails. Elena looked at the tactical display. The approaching ships were sleek and black, built for speed and stealth. She recognized the design from her military training. Those are hunter ships, she said. Mercenaries. They're coming for me. How can you be sure? Vextar asked. Because I know what a raid formation looks like. The first ship opened fire without warning. Energy beams lit up space around them. Vextar's salvage vessel shook under the impact. Shields are failing. Mora called out. Why are they shooting at us? Zix screamed. Elena was already moving. Because someone wants me alive, and they don't care about the rest of you. She ran to the ship's small armory. The weapons there were designed for aliens, too big for human hands. But Elena's enhanced strength made that problem disappear. She grabbed a heavy plasma rifle meant for Vextar as species and checked its power cell. "Commander, what are you doing?" Vextar had followed her. "Saving your ship," Elena said simply. The salvage vessel shook again as another blast hit them. Through the ship's cameras, Elena could see the hunter ships moving into board. "Get everyone to the safe room," she told Vextar. "Lock the doors and don't come out until I tell you. But you can't fight 3 ships by yourself." Elena looked at him with eyes that had seen the worst war in galactic history. "Watch me." The first boarding pod attached to the hull with a metallic clang. Elena felt the vibrations through her enhanced senses. She could track the movements of the attackers as they cut through the outer door. She positioned herself in the main corridor and waited. The door exploded inward. 6 armored figures rushed through, weapons raised. They moved with professional skill, covering each other as they advanced. Elena stepped out of the shadows. The first hunter saw her and raised his weapon. Elena moved faster than he could track. Her enhanced reflexes made everything seem slow. She reached him before he could fire and grabbed his weapon with one hand. The heavy assault rifle crumpled in her grip like tinfoil. The hunter stared in shock. Elena grabbed him by the chest armor and threw him into his companions. All 3 went down in a tangle of arms and weapons. The other 3 hunters opened fire. Elena dove to the side, moving so fast she seemed to blur. The energy beams missed her completely. She came up behind them before they could turn around. One quick strike to each of their necks, and they dropped unconscious to the floor. The whole fight had taken less than 10 seconds. Elena heard more cutting sounds from other parts of the ship. 2 more boarding teams were trying to get in. She picked up one of the dropped weapons and ran toward the next breach. The second team was ready for her. They had set up a defensive position and opened fire the moment she appeared. But Elena didn't try to dodge this time. She ran straight at them. The energy beams hit her enhanced body and barely slowed her down. Her modified bones and muscles absorbed impacts that would have killed a normal person. She felt the burns on her skin, but she kept moving. She reached the first hunter and grabbed his weapon. Instead of crushing it, she turned it around and used it to knock him unconscious. Then she spun and struck the others with moves too fast for normal eyes to follow. By the time the third boarding team realized what was happening, Elena was already coming for them. These hunters tried to retreat, but Elena was faster. She caught them in the ship's cargo bay and ended the fight with the same deadly efficiency. When it was over, Elena stood among 15 unconscious attackers. Her clothes were torn and burned, but she was barely breathing hard. The enhancement drugs in her system had already begun healing her injuries. Captain Vextar found her there 20 minutes later. He stared at the unconscious hunters, then at Elena. "How?" was all he could say. "This is what humans were made to be," Elena said quietly. "This is why the galaxy forgot us. This is why we had to leave." She walked to one of the hunter ships and placed her hand on its computer system. Her enhanced nervous system interfaced directly with the alien technology. "Let me see who sent you," she said. Information flowed into her mind. Krelthox. Dark Harbor Station. A bounty worth 50 million credits. But there was more. Other bounties from other sources. Scientists who wanted to study her. Collectors who wanted to own her. Even governments that wanted to weaponize her. "The word is spreading," she told Vextar. "Soon everyone will know I'm alive. Is that bad?" Elena looked at the tactical display. More ships were moving in the distance. Different configurations. Different species. All heading toward them. "It's very bad," she said. Because some of the people who remember humans won't want me to find my people, and others will want to use me as a weapon. She walked to the communication station and began entering commands. "What are you doing?" Vexstar asked. "Sending a message to the Deep Black," Elena said. "If any humans are still out there, they need to know that someone remembers the old wars. And they need to know that something is stirring in the void between again." She finished the transmission and sent it out on the old human military frequencies. Then she turned to Vexstar. "Captain, I need you to take me to the Kethmori systems. The Kethmori don't allow visitors." "They'll see me," Elena said with certainty. "They're the only ones left who remember what we fought together. And if the Void Hunger is returning, they'll remember why they need us." Outside the ship, more vessels appeared on the sensors. The hunt for the last human had begun. The Kethmori homeworld looked nothing like Elena remembered. Where once there had been floating cities and billions of inhabitants, now there were only small settlements scattered across empty continents. Elder Vashtar met them at the landing platform. She was ancient by any standard, her crystal-like skin clouded with age, but her eyes were sharp and knowing. "Shepherd," she said in the old tongue, "you are very late." Elena felt tears on her cheeks. Someone remembered. Someone still used the old words. "I'm sorry, Elder. We got lost in the dock." Vashtar looked at her closely. "You have changed. The modifications have evolved. You are more than you were. I don't know what I am anymore." "You are what you were always meant to become," Vashtar said. "Come, we must speak quickly. The signs have been growing stronger." They walked through the settlement to a building that looked like a temple. Inside, holographic displays showed star charts and energy readings that made Elena's enhanced mind race. "The void between stirs," Vashtar said. 3 systems have gone dark in the past month, the same way they did during the war. Elena studied the data. The pattern was unmistakable. Reality tears, dimensional invasions, the signature of an enemy that existed partially outside normal space. "How many people know?" Elena asked. "Few believe us. The council thinks we are old fools telling ghost stories. Your people trained us to watch and remember, but the galaxy has forgotten how to listen." Elena activated her wrist communicator. "Aida, analyze these readings. Analysis complete. Energy signatures match archived void hunger activity patterns. Confidence level, 97%. Elena felt the weight of 3,000 years crushing down on her. "They're back." "They never truly left," Vashtar corrected. "They waited. They grew stronger. And now the galaxy has no shepherds to stand against them." Before Elena could respond, alarms began blaring across the settlement. Vashtar's aide rushed in. "Elder, ships are emerging from the void between. The Galactic fleet is engaging them." They rushed to the command center where massive screens showed the battle. Elena watched in horror as modern warships tried to fight an enemy that barely existed in their reality. Energy beams passed through void hunger entities like they were made of shadow. Missiles exploded harmlessly against creatures that shifted between dimensions. "They don't understand," Elena whispered. "You can't fight the void hunger with normal weapons." Ship after ship disappeared into writhing masses of dark energy. Elena recognized the tactical patterns from her nightmares. The void hunger wasn't just attacking. It was feeding, growing stronger with each ship it consumed. "Shepherd," Vashtar said urgently, "you must call them." Elena knew what she meant. The human fleets, hidden somewhere in the silent stars. But did they even still exist after 3,000 years? She activated her emergency beacon on the old military frequencies. "This is Commander Elena Vasquez, Apex Guard, calling any human vessels. Priority Omega. The void hunger has returned." "Repeat. The void hunger has returned. All units respond." For long minutes, there was only static. Elena felt despair growing in her chest. They were gone. Humanity had faded away, and she was alone against an enemy that could devour reality itself. Then a voice came through the static. Deep, calm, and hauntingly familiar. Commander Vasquez, this is Admiral Marcus Chun, Human Deep Fleet. Confirmed receipt of your transmission. Beginning emergence protocol. Elena's knees went weak. Chun was alive. After 3,000 years, her old commander was still alive. Admiral, what is your current strength? 237 vessels of various classes. Population approximately 2 million. We have been preparing for this day. 2 million. Out of the billions that had once been humanity, only 2 million remained. But Elena felt hope growing anyway. Sir, requesting immediate assistance. The galaxy has no defense against void hunger tactics. Understood. Fleet elements are entering normal space now. On the screens, new contacts appeared throughout the combat zone. Ships unlike anything the current galaxy had ever seen. They moved with impossible grace and struck with weapons that actually hurt the void hunger entities. Elena watched in amazement as human vessels danced between dimensions, tracking enemies that existed in multiple realities at once. Their weapons fired energy that followed the void hunger back to their hiding places in folded space. But she could see it wasn't enough. There were too many enemies and too few human ships. The void hunger had grown during their long wait. Admiral, I'm coming to join the fleet. Negative, Commander. You're needed where you are. We need you to coordinate with local forces. Elena looked at the tactical display. Local forces were being slaughtered. The Galactic Council ships were worse than useless against this enemy. Sir, the local forces don't know how to fight this enemy. Then teach them. Elena realized what Chun meant. She looked at Captain Vextar, who had been watching the battle in shock. Captain, I need to speak to every ship commander in this sector. What? Open a general frequency. Now. Vextar's hand shook as he activated the communication system. Soon Elena was speaking to dozens of ship captains from various species. This is Commander Vasquez of the Terran Defense Force. I know you don't know who I am, but right now I'm the only one who can help you survive this. Who are you to give us orders? Demanded a hegemony captain. I'm someone who fought this enemy before and won, Elena replied. Listen to me or watch your crews die. Your choice. She began teaching them everything she knew. How to track enemies that existed in multiple dimensions. How to predict where they would strike next. How to modify their weapons to actually hurt creatures made of living void. It was like trying to explain advanced physics to children, but Elena's enhanced mind found ways to make it simple. She broke down complex tactical concepts into basic patterns that alien minds could understand. Slowly, the battle began to turn. Ships that had been helpless started landing hits on void hunger entities. Coordinated attacks began to drive back the invasion forces. But Elena could see the bigger picture. This was just a probe. The real invasion was still coming. Admiral Chun, what's the status of the old defensive networks? All destroyed or abandoned. We're operating with a fraction of our former strength. Elena made a decision that would have been impossible for a normal human. Her enhanced mind processed thousands of tactical variables in seconds. Sir, I'm requesting permission to begin recruitment. There was a long pause. Commander, the galaxy rejected us once. They chose to forget us rather than face what we had become. Then we'll remind them, Elena said. We'll show them what humans really are. Not the monsters they feared, but the guardians they needed. On the screens, another void hunger wave was forming in the deep dark, bigger than the first. Elena could see the terror in the faces of the alien crew around her. Admiral, I don't think we have a choice anymore. It's help them remember, or watch reality itself get devoured. Agreed, Commander. Operation Shepherd's return is authorized. Show them who we are. Elena turned to Vextar. Captain, how many ships can you contact? Hundreds, maybe thousands. Contact them all. Tell them a human will teach them to survive what's coming. Tell them the shepherds have returned. As she spoke, Elena felt something changing inside herself. The modifications weren't just making her stronger anymore. They were making her into something the galaxy needed. A bridge between the humans, who had become legends, and the people who had forgotten them. Outside, more human ships emerged from fold space. Each one carried crews who had spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had been both feared and loved. The real war was about to begin. The final battle took place above the galactic core, where reality was thinnest and the void hunger could pour through in massive numbers. Elena stood on the bridge of Admiral Chun's flagship, watching the largest fleet in galactic history prepare for war. 3,000 ships from 47 species, led by 200 human vessels that should have been impossible. Elena looked at Admiral Chun and barely recognized him. 3,000 years of enhancement technology had changed him into something barely human anymore. His skin was pale as starlight. His eyes held depths like space itself, and when he moved, reality seemed to bend around him. How did you survive so long? Elena asked. We stopped aging, Chun said simply. We stopped being fully human. We became what we needed to be to guard the galaxy, even when the galaxy didn't want us. Elena understood. She could feel the same changes happening to herself. Each day made her stronger, faster, less human, and more something else. Do you regret it? Chun looked at the tactical display where void hunger entities were emerging from dimensional tiers. Ask me after we win. The battle began with the aliens trying their new tactics. Elena had taught them well, and their modified weapons actually hurt the enemy now. But the void hunger had learned too. They came in waves that adapted to each new strategy. Elena watched species that had never cooperated before working together under human tactical doctrine. Hegemony battleships covered Kithmori fast attack craft. Trading guild cargo haulers had been converted to supply ships that kept everyone fighting. But it wasn't enough. For every void hunger entity they destroyed, 2 more emerged from the dark between realities. Admiral, we need to close the main rift, Elena said. It's the only way to stop them. Chun nodded. The dimensional charges are ready, but someone has to get close enough to deploy them. Elena knew what he meant. Getting close to a major dimensional rift meant flying into space where reality broke down, where the laws of physics became suggestions, where normal beings couldn't survive. I'll do it, she said. Commander, you're our best tactical coordinator. We need you here. You need someone who can survive in the void between long enough to plant the charges. My modifications have gone further than anyone else's. Elena looked at the other human crew members. They were all changed, all enhanced beyond normal human limits. But she could see in their faces that she had gone the furthest. She was becoming something that could exist partially outside reality. Elena, Chen said quietly, using her first name for the first time in 3,000 years. If you do this, you probably won't come back, I know. She turned to address the fleet. Her enhanced voice carried to every ship in the battle group. All units, this is Commander Vasquez. I'm going to close the main rift. When I do, hit everything that's left with everything you have. Don't let a single entity escape. Elena walked to the hangar bay where a specially modified fighter waited. It was built with human technology that pushed the boundaries of known science. As she climbed into the cockpit, she felt her body changing further. Her enhanced senses expanded to perceive dimensions that normal humans couldn't see. The fighter launched into space, where reality was breaking apart. Around her, The laws of physics twisted and bent. Up and down became meaningless. Time flowed in circles. But Elena's modified mind could process it all. She flew through battles that existed in 5 dimensions at once. Past alien ships that were fighting with courage they never knew they had. Through swarms of void hunger, entities that tried to follow her into the spaces between real space. The main rift was a tear in everything. Through it, Elena could see the void hunger's true home. A place where physics died and logic became nightmare. But she also saw something else. The entities weren't evil. They were hungry, starving. Their universe was dying, and they needed to feed on reality itself to survive. For a moment, Elena hesitated. These creatures were fighting for survival just like every other species. But then she remembered the billions who had died in the First War, the civilizations that had been consumed. The choice between compassion and survival. Elena flew her fighter into the rift itself. Reality collapsed around her as she entered the space between spaces. Her enhanced body began to break down at the molecular level, but her will kept her together long enough to deploy the dimensional charges. "Charges armed," she transmitted. "All ships, clear the area." She watched through sensors that could barely function in the twisted space as the fleet pulled back. Admiral Chun's face appeared on her communication screen. "Elena, eject. We'll try to recover you." Elena smiled. She could feel herself dissolving into component atoms, but somehow her consciousness remained intact. The modifications had made her into something that could exist as pure information. "Tell them to remember us as we were, not as what we became," she said. She triggered the charges. The explosion existed in dimensions that had no names. Reality snapped back into its proper shape like a rubber band. The main rift collapsed, cutting off the void hunger invasion dot in normal space. The remaining entities found themselves trapped and outnumbered. The combined fleet, fighting with human tactics and desperate courage, destroyed them systematically. Elena felt herself scattered across multiple dimensions. But somehow, her consciousness held together long enough to see the victory. The galaxy was safe. 3 months later, Captain Vexstar stood at the dedication ceremony for the new memorial. Representatives from every species had come to honor the human who had saved them all. The memorial was simple. A crystal monument with Elena's name and the words she had spoken at the end. "Remember us as we were, not as what we became." Admiral Chun stood beside it, looking more human than he had in centuries. The war's end had allowed him to reverse some of his modifications. "Will you stay?" Vexstar asked him. Chun shook his head. "The galaxy needs to find its own way now. We'll return to the Silent Stars, but we'll be watching. And if something like this happens again?" Chun smiled. It was a human smile, warm and protective. "Then we'll remember what we are. We're the ones who bleed for strangers. We're the ones who guard the dark. We're humans." As the ceremony ended, Vexstar noticed something. The old warning beacons around the former quarantine zones had been reactivated, but the message had changed. Here stood those who bled for strangers. Here stood humans. Remember, across the galaxy, children learn new stories. Not about monsters or myths, but about guardians who had given everything to protect people they had never met. About beings who became more than human, so that others could remain themselves dot in the deep black between the stars. The human fleet returned to their long watch. They were fewer now and changed, but they endured, waiting for the next threat, ready to be the guardians the galaxy needed, whether it remembered them or not. And sometimes, just sometimes, long-range sensors detected impossible readings from the dimensional barriers. Energy signatures that matched Elena's final transformation. As if somewhere in the spaces between realities, a consciousness still watched and protected. The galaxy had learned what humans were. They were the ones who came when no one else could. They were the ones who paid prices others couldn't imagine. They were the ones who made the hard choices so others didn't have to. They were hope given form and purpose. They were human.